We start with Christian Petrarca at Melbourne. Tom Morris offered this observation and broke this story this morning. Well, more to add to this on the Petrarca situation with the Demons. But here's what Nine's Tom Morris had to say this morning.
He released via his own account that he was out for the season before the club did. Probably gives you an indication of what he and his family thought about.
You think they're upset?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, frustrated.
At who?
Yeah, at the club, at Melbourne. I think it's more just, I don't know, what happened in the days that followed. There was certainly a feeling from the Petrarca family that the club could have done things better.
So a little bit of a divide there with the family, Caro, and you got more on this, and we'll get into the detail in a moment. But how big a concern is this for Melbourne that their star and his family are on a different page on the way it was treated?
Look, I think Melbourne are very worried. This is such a sensitive issue that I've spoken to a lot of people about this today, and nobody wants to go on the record, whether it's on the Petrarca side or the club side. But it is certainly true that, and despite what Tom says, I think it all dates back to the decision to put him back onto the ground. I do think that even though, I mean, we know that Christian Petrarca put out that post saying that he was responsible for the decision. He then removed that post from Melbourne's social media. We'll have a look at the moment as I start talking. But it's just interesting that he put it up and then he took it down again.
Yeah, so this was commented on the Melbourne feed. I'm responsible for putting myself out there, by the way, for people talking about the medicos. That was in the day after last Tuesday, I think, or 2 days after.
It was gone by Wednesday.
He took that post down, which was telling.
Now, he does have a strong brand and he's got his cooking situation on TikTok or something, so maybe that was part of the decision to put out the announcement about his season. It's true he was in ICU till Wednesday or Thursday and wasn't allowed visitors except for his partner Bella and his parents, and it's true that no one can visit him now because he's in isolation at home because of the risk of infection. Now, Melbourne have asked themselves, and I know Alan Richardson, the head of footy, has asked himself, could he have been more sensitive in his comments about Christian Petrarca's 12 weeks without contact training, etc. Although he did specify we're putting his welfare first, but maybe he shouldn't have even mentioned, he wonders, the contact training and anything to do with training, given the terrible situation Christian Petrarca was in. But it's difficult. Do you deal with the player and his partner when the player's 28 and lives with his partner, or do you deal with the parents?
Both.
See, yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Maybe they needed to talk to everyone and not
Caro,
just Petrarca and his partner.
To get to the bottom of this, so Melbourne are worried for the reason that you're saying that Christian and his family are disappointed.
That was a bombshell. Tom's story today was a shock to them. They did not see this coming. They have been, I mean, I think Alan Richardson was in the hospital that night, wasn't allowed to visit Christian because he was... I know he wasn't anaesthetised, but I think he was asleep at the time. He couldn't have visitors. All the team, including the coach, went on a 5-day break. Most of them went interstate. So all the contact was via text message for the first few days, and that was it, but they couldn't have visited him anyway. Because the story broke, they're all saying, could we have done this? Could we have done that? You know, Alan Richardson saying, should I have mentioned the 12-week without contact on the press release? I think this is it just the family being completely shocked and shattered by what happened? Or, I mean, I think it goes back to the decision to put him back on. I think that was such a mistake by everyone concerned. I know the AFL's cleared it. I think that systems need to change if that can happen in the first place.
And it's just an unnecessary distraction. They can't afford to have their best player and his family at odds with them through this period when they're off a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the last thing Melbourne would have meant to do, wouldn't they? They wouldn't have meant to. The care, you know what it's like, Kane. The care clubs have for their players is unbelievable.
I've heard Christian Petrarca talk about Simon Goodwin as a father figure. Now, Simon Goodwin went into state for his break, but he couldn't have gone to the hospital anyway. As I said, they were all texting several times a day. This is I think it goes to how shattered they were.
And to a footy club that's just a little bit uneasy
so many problems this year.
on its footing at the moment. This is what Christian Petrarca had to say this morning. It was great to hear him on radio.
Had I known now the severity of it, I probably obviously wouldn't have gone back out there.
Is there any doubt in your mind about returning to the footy field?
Oh, bloody oath. At the moment, yeah. Still raw for me. It's still 7 days, but no doubt with the recovery process and everything that I'll be able to tick off and my mindset, I'll be able to get back to the player I was. Just, at the moment, it's a lot of self-doubt.
No doubt, though, about his return to the game for pre-season and next year?
I don't believe so. I think the Petrarca family is confident that he'll be playing again next year, and he'll be playing for the Melbourne Football Club.
To on-field matters, I think that what his injury and also them having the bye has done is it's taken them off Broadway and off the back of the papers, because they have been really poor. They've been one of the more disappointing teams of the season. Their performance against Fremantle and Alice Springs was as bad as you'll ever see from an AFL team. And then they said they improved against Collingwood, but Collingwood had that many out and they still lost by 38 points. So these are the numbers. You know, they're really struggling through their midfield, struggling at centre bounce. You know, not scoring again. Look at that percentage, goals per inside 50. So they play North this week.
Danger game all of a sudden.
It is very much a danger game, and there's no Christian Petrarca. I'm giving Phillips another opportunity. I'm saying to him, go and take down Oliver. I think if you can upset Oliver, you can upset your team. So obviously we can talk about Phillips and Clarkson getting it wrong and all that, but I'm just giving this boy another chance to take down Oliver and go after Max Gawn as well, to see if they can rattle the cage of a team that's not travelling well in Melbourne.
So Simon Goodwin said 2 weeks ago Clayton Oliver was on the verge of great form again. Was he speaking in hope? I don't know.
Miles away.
Does Clayton Oliver owe the Melbourne Football Club now? Is this his great opportunity to step up?
When you put your hand up for a 7-year deal worth $7 million, you've got to be performing better than what he has. And the problem for Clayton is he's now seen as a liability for Melbourne, where players are going to him and exposing his lack of defensive accountability. But you're right, Lordo, with the North Melbourne midfield and their explosion away from stoppage, that they're vulnerable.